So, welcome everybody. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. I know the MTV Awards or whatever are on right now, but this is going to be like way cooler and have like way better special effects, maybe. Um, Anyways, me and Karo are going to be co-hosting. We're going to be introducing each other. Um, so, just real quick, thanks to Still Arts, thanks poets and writers, and thank all of you again for coming and joining us. Our first poet today is going to be Karo Ska. Karo Ska, who uses she, they pronouns, is a South Asian and Eastern European non-binary femme poet living on occupied Tongva land with their Black Hat muse. Anti-capitalist and anti-authoritarian, they find joy where they can. Their first chapbook, Gathering Grandmother's Bones, was released by DSTL Arts on February 29th of this year. Take it away, Kara.
Thanks, Nikolai. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us today. I'm really excited to be reading alongside these poets, I'm looking forward to the next hour or so. Um, and I'm gonna start off by reading a couple poems from my book. And as Nikolai mentioned, this is the book. It's called Gathering Grandmother's Bones. And as Nikolai mentioned, it was published in February of this year, and it was pretty much like right before everything closed down. So that, it's been kind of like an interesting experience because I haven't really been able to go out and do readings. But now the virtual thing is happening. Um, so the first poem that I'm going to read is it's I think it's one of my favorite poets from this collection. And it's kind of like I feel like the heart of the book. And it was actually recently reprinted with Whoa Nelly Press. So it's pretty. I was pretty excited about that. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. It's called Grandma's Hands. For the first 12 years of my life, my mom said, "You're 75% Polish, 25% Indian." Who was I to not believe her? But she lied, manipulated the numbers in her desire for me to be white, announcing, "You were raised in Poland," as if this changed my genetic fragments. Today, I seek another version of the truth. Order a DNA test on sale, 30% off. I want scientific percentages. I want to know who painted the hieroglyphics in my veins. Was I switched at birth? Did my mom pick a man's name at random? Will they send me grandma's gentle hands through the mail? My father says to be Bengali, you must speak the language. I am not Bengali. I am not American or Polish. I wish I was 100% intentional. Instead, I am 48% South Asian, 48% Eastern European, and 4% Indus Valley. 100% obscure, no links to Ancestry.com's genetic communities. They deny me a family too, give me distant European cousins. I don't claim national border identities. A river flows from a plateau, spills into a sea, connects to an ocean, trembles at my LA river's edge. I touch the water. I feel a pull. Maybe I'm reaching, but I can hear my ancestors speaking. My dripping fingers weave gnarled amino acids, revealing an ancient script. I was not intentional, yet I'm here, digging for sweet, muddy acceptance, following my tangled roots. In India, archaeologists uncover a rocky Gari burial site, siphoning DNA from a 4,000-year-old ear bone, proving we, South Asians, descend from her Indus magic. Grandma's gentle hands don't arrive in the mail, but she's listening, as am I. Okay. Thank you. So that was my first one. Um, and then the next one that I'm going to read is a little bit more on the heavier side, and I don't read it. I don't read it that often. I think maybe I've only read it like once before. and this whole chapbook is really about reclaiming my identity and also processing a lot of my childhood trauma. And so this one is a sort of like a content advisory. It does contain some mention of abuse. It's called a star-strobed dollhouse. Under a star-strobed onyx sky, we fly an ocean away from my Barbie dollhouse to mosquito nets and hotel beds we don't know how to use. We wake up swollen and red. Mom grumbling, we need a better place to stay. I eat breakfast, throw it up yellow and green on gray concrete. Later, under a star-strobed onyx sky, he meets us at the airport, takes us to his apartment. LA skyscrape skyline scorching my lips into a plastic smile. I sleep on the floor. They take the bed as soon-to-be husband and wife. Later, he drops us off at the courthouse, slaps my ass as I scramble out of the car. He says soon we will have our own place, walk around naked. Mom realizes it's not safe, but we need green cards. Later, he and his son come into our room, dangling lingerie. She kicks him. I peek out from under the covers, under a star-strobed onyx sky. Later, I build a shoebox dollhouse. All the Kens inside are missing arms. Barbie's hands stained robin red. Her smile star-strobed under an onyx sky. So that's that piece. And yeah, it's a little bit on the heavier side. As some of these poems are. Okay. And I'm gonna read some new stuff now that I've been working on in the last few months. And like part of the consequence of trauma, of suffering trauma, especially as like a child, is depression and anxiety and post-traumatic stress. Like a lot of that like lives, like that trauma like lives in your body, doesn't just like go away. And you have to really work out to sort of overcome it. And that's kind of been sort of what I've been doing. And so I've been writing a series of poems about mental health. Also, it's like mental health is so stigmatized, and people like don't want to be like, oh, I'm depressed or I'm anxious, but like so many of us are, and it's like I think it's like we should be talking about that. We should be open and honest about it. And so this poem was actually inspired by an Instagram graphic, and it was I was talking about how like if you have anxiety, you should accept it. You shouldn't just like push it away, but you should actually accept it and invite it in for tea. That was sort of the graphic. And I had a poet friend of mine who like messaged me and was like, oh, I really like this, like it sounds like a really good poem. And I was like, yeah, you're that's true. And so it gave me the idea. And so I wrote this poem as a letter to anxiety. It's called Dear Anxiety. Dear Anxiety, today I am a kiwi. Hard to peel. Or wait, no, maybe a pomegranate. Time consuming for a small burst of juice. I wish I was prepackaged and pre-sliced. Oh, anxiety, come sit with me. Enjoy a cup of tea. No coffee. I can't drink it. After a cup, my heart is a durian, its spikes piercing my lungs. Come now, anxiety. Sip your tea. Yesterday, my emotions were comets slamming into me. I'm crater filled, my planet body bleeding a thick fog. A thick fog my white mother collected in her racist handbasket. She taught me to hate half of me, and if I hate half of me, I can't love all of me. So I seek you out, anxiety. But I'm nothing like my mother. I am my Bengali father's grandmother, her spirit itching in my bones. Yet I can't turn off white supremacy's ugly light, a bright light burning in the middle of my chest. I prefer the dark. Light scorches me, searing my skin. How you do, anxiety. I prefer a dark cavern underneath a singing waterfall. Now, anxiety, you haven't touched your tea. In the mornings, in the mirror, I say I am safe and choke on my tongue. I long for a home, look it up in the dictionary, but its definitions evade me. My roots are snakes, hissing, spitting venom. I try burying them, but they leave twin bites on my wrists. I don't want a home in the ground. I want a home where my belly sprouts sunflowers and amaranth. Anxiety. I don't like when you come around because the room freezes. Icicles form on my fingertips. Snow sprinkles on my eyelashes. Drink some tea, anxiety. It's chamomile and lavender. We can thaw out, melt into a river, run into the ocean. We can get lost in the salt and the waves. We can float under the sun's gaze. We can sing silly songs, dive with the dolphins, twirl with the tuna. No, you don't want to go? Take a sip of tea. It'll be good for you. Anxiety, you are my identity crisis. Where is the pride in who I am? Where are the lions prowling my savannah veins? I can hear them growling in the grasses of my hair. They're coming out. Hurry, anxiety. Finish your tea. Gulp it quick. Yes, I know it's hot, but who I am is not you, and who I am wants out of their cage. You've overstayed your welcome, anxiety. I'll pack this tea up because it's time for you to go. um and yeah, that's the end of that poem. And yeah, I think this is actually like a really good exercise for anyone to do, like, and it doesn't have to be like a letter to anxiety. It could be to like, to really anything, any kind of emotion. And I didn't really know how this poem was going to turn out, and it kind of like ended up me like kicking anxiety out. And I feel like in some ways like it's helped me be like, I am really like, getting rid of that, of my anxiety and not letting it control me. So yeah. Okay, so this next one, I'm just gonna read it because it's a little. I think the title is kind of gonna set it all up for all of you. It's called "The Day I Spilled Menstrual Blood All Over the Bathroom Floor at an Altamed Clinic in East Los Angeles." I pull out my menstrual cup, slippery in my fingers. It collapses from the weight of my womb. Splat. The teal tiles below embrace the viscous, watery clumps. The teal tiles welcome red cells twined together like primordial fish or thick tadpoles. Blood scurries down my thighs, a vermilion creek of wounded wisdom painted on the floor like a Jackson Pollock painting or a Rohr Starch test. What do I see? A moth, a butterfly, my grandmother's face? The egg that made me was in my grandmother's womb, in my mother's baby body. The grandmother who would later tell my mother, I have no daughter. I collapsed from the weight of my womb, remembering before I was born I was part of their flesh. Now all of our fleshes lay exposed. I wipe our intergenerational trauma from the bathroom floor. If only it were so easy. My therapist asks me where I carry my mother's and my grandmother's racism, where their disdain for Indians and Muslims hide in my body, a self-hate burrowing under my skin. I collapse from the weight of my womb. I rub the crimson from the crevices between the tiles. Think how my father survived Operation Searchlight, wasn't one of the boys executed by the Pakistani army. In the leftover rivulets of blood, I see people murdered in the Buriganga River, their bodies left to float downstream, one by one. I scrub and scrub, but I can't erase history. I collapse from the weight of my womb. See history repeat when the Pasadena police kill Anthony McLean. See history repeat when in Vermont they shoot Jacob Blake in the back. History spills on the headlines. Blood, not mine, spills on the concrete. Fury, mine, swims in my uterus, infuses my cervix. My vulva screams and screams. My ovaries spark and ignite. I roar across centuries, a menstrual monster spitting bloody pulp on highways and high rises. My womb collapsing, soaking oceans, filling forests, drenching deserts, destroying a planet with a promise of rebirth. Yeah, so when I started writing that poem, and like after this, this thing happened at the at the clinic, it was kind of like, I was just like, I got to write a poem about this, because it was kind of a lot. And I didn't really know where it was where it was going to end up going, and it kind of it kind of went here with, like, just, I guess, connecting my own personal history with some of the anger that I'm holding at what's happening here in the United States with the continued police murders, and yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to read a few more. And this one is one of my very recent poems that I wrote just a couple weeks ago. And I've been re-examining my boundaries, and trying um, to really appreciate my worth and my body. And so this one, so I've been, I think that this one is I've been reading it a lot, because I feel like for me it's almost like an affirmation, and I want to so yeah, I've been wanting to honor my body, and yeah. So this is called Not Yours. My body you can't throw away. It is not a toy or an instrument or a tool, nor a mannequin or a marionette, definitely not a puppet. No, my body isn't a bowl to be filled or a champagne glass to be clasped at the neck and toasted. You can't drink from me or even put your lips on my rim. My body is not disposable for your pleasure, nor does it seek your acceptance. It doesn't need or want your Venus razor blades or padded push-up bras. My body doesn't want or ask for your touch, doesn't crave validation or a compliment on its smile. My body is not a gender. My genitals aren't an identifier or a summation. My gender is not the skirt I wear or the mascara I don't. My body is not a blanket for your comfort on nights you're lonely, so you call at 3 a.m. My body's not Disneyland. You can't ride my Splash Mountain or my Indiana Jones adventure. You can't cut in line because you have a fast pass. No, my body's not the Marriott or the Holiday Inn. I don't provide room service or fluff your towels or change your sheets. Nor is it a park you can stroll through or a cookie in the oven you abandon when the edges get too burnt. My body can't satisfy your desires. It's not ice cream on a 100-degree day in the San Fernando Valley. My body won't swallow its own tongue for your smile, or smile hoping your tongue will swallow my body. My body doesn't curl up into itself, wishing you'd text back. It doesn't fall asleep, dreaming of your eyes, shining like lighthouses guiding it onto a cliff. My body is not the ocean, not where you can take seashells without giving anything back. My body is not a book you can read and throw away. No, my body is not a possession for you to claim. My body isn't yours. Yep. And then yeah, thank you everybody. I've seen like all the comments and stuff. It's always like kind of awkward, because I'm like, I'm used to like people clapping and like having like this response, but now I'm just like in my room. But so yeah, it's always a little awkward, but thank you. I'm seeing like the comments and everything, and I appreciate them. So I'm going to read two more, and then this first one is so this next one is it's a little bit different from the other ones that I've read, and it's like one of the other things I really like to do is like to people watch, and I'm like into like observing observing like daily life and just like the people that I see, and so this is one of those poems, and it's called Onion Rings. In an alley hidden from view, a man sits on a concrete slabs. White hairs perch above his lips, his cheeks rounded and sun-drenched. Next to him, a wire basket squeezes his possessions, a dehydrated pink blanket slumped on top. He leans back, tossing an onion ring to a group of 3 gray-blue speckled pigeons. They attack the soggy circle, gleeful, wings aflutter, necks quivering. Like the pigeons, he too savors the crunchy batter frolicking on his tongue before it flees his mouth, a warmth short and fading, not like the warmth of watching pigeons gobbling greasy morsels. This warmth doesn't leave. Their coos soothe his hunger and cold. It starts to sprinkle. The pigeons don't mind, neither does he. He throws another ring. I walk past him, smile, and give his pigeon space. His eyes shimmer, iridescent oily rainbows. His smile only for the pigeons to surround him like he's a god or a king. Yep. So I'm gonna just read one more, and this one is gonna be from from my book, and this is kind of like the poem that I've been ending a lot of my readings on. It's called "In the Frozen Food Aisle." Gleaming glass doors showcase frozen food packaged in plastic and cardboard. I'm lost in my choices until a voice startles me. Excuse me, do you work at UCLA? You look really familiar. The red mesh basket bulges on my arm, straining from dirt-freckled potatoes, scarlet-flushed apples, and frizzy-haired broccoli. No, I don't. My eyes scan 5-pack burger patties, blueberry speckled waffles, and frost-bitten peas. Oh, where are you from? Oblivious to my flitting eyes, my coiled spine, and my quivering triceps. From here, knowing he craves my genetic fragments, access to my ancestors. But I am more Los Angeles than anything. He rephrases, stumbling, stuttering. What is your background? Feet throbbing from a 6-hour shift, I adjust my basket, cyborg my answer like a pre-recorded message. My mom is from Poland. My dad is from Bangladesh. It doesn't satisfy. Wow, well, what's your story? Now I lie. No story, and walk away. In 2020, if anyone asks again, I'll sell them my book. And yeah, that's from this book right here. And then, oh yeah, thank Luz. Yes. Like a lot of people always ask me, like, like, where are you from? And like all this other, just sort of these questions that are like, it just gets exhausting. Like I get that people are trying to connect and are trying to like have have a conversation with you. And I do like appreciate that in some aspect. But again, another way is just like, it does get tiring to have to like explain to people all the time, like, like where I'm from. And like, then people start asking like, how my parents met. And, and for me, it's a lot of like trauma and like, so I'm trying to like, I don't want to like cut myself off from people totally, but it is exhausting to have to, repeat your story. And it's like this labor that is, it's not, that you're not paying for. And that's why, I'm like, oh, I have a book. So if you want to know more, you can just, that's how you can find out more. And then you're actually, I don't know, I guess, yeah, if you want to know my story, then I feel like you need to contribute something to me as well. But okay, so that's all from me as a poet. I'm now going to switch over to my thank you everybody for all the snaps and all the love. I really appreciate it. I love seeing all your faces. And so now I'm going to switch over to my my hosting hat on, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce the next poet that's going to be reading, Nikolai Garcia. And, I met Nikolai about, like, I think it was like, it's almost been like 2 years now. I think it's going to be like 2 years sometime in February, I think, or January. And we met through the conscious classes that DSTL Arts does. And I really, we've actually featured a lot together. I feel like 90% of the readings that I've had have been with Nikolai, which is kind of funny. But I've always appreciated that he's like pushed me to submit to places, and yeah. So and he writes some really great poetry that I really enjoy. So I hope you all enjoy him as well. So Nikolai Garcia is the assistant editor at Dryland, a literary arts journal born in South Central Los Angeles. And just as a side note, Dryland's coming out with their 10, and I'm sure Nikolai will talk a little bit about that. His work has been published in various literary journals, including Latino Book Review, Huizache, Drunk Monkeys, Cultural Weekly, Sad Girl Review, and others. He has been a featured poet at various venues in Los Angeles and the San Francisco Bay Area. Most recently, he has been featured in live stream readings coordinated by the Autry Museum and Libro Mobile. And his first chapbook, Nuclear Shadows of Palm Trees, was released last year. Okay, Nikolai, it's all you.
Thank you, Karo. Thank you for that intro. Thank you for helping to set this whole thing up, by the way. Hello, y'all. My name is Nikolai Garcia, and this is where I'm from. Spent a majority of childhood on 41st Street in a big white and red house surrounded by giant palm trees and Avalon gangster crips, both of whom played with clouds. There were brown-eyed Dobermans and a Pink Panther ice cream truck. Across the street lived Marisol Torres, blonde hair, blue eyes. She was the whitest Mexican I ever knew. One night, a cousin was shot dead at the corner store. He had a long Spanish name I never learned how to spell. He belonged to a local gang and was killed by the local rivals. There, blood everywhere. I walked past it on my way to school. That day I learned blood has two colors, the bright radish red when leaving your body, and the rusty brownish red after drying on concrete. That was called Confessional Poem Number One, and it's in my chapbook, which you can't really see it here because I'm sitting in the dark, but whatever. You can find it on the DSTL Arts website. Here's another one from the chapbook. This is called Wanda Coleman's Roar. I don't smoke weed, I smoke palm trees. I rise in the clouds like the 110-105 interchange. I take back airspace from a LAPD chopper, examining freeways, concrete ribbons, anchoring our smog and beaches to the west coast. Each night, I dream about Wanda Coleman. She tells me one day I'll be as big as the Watts Towers. She says, point your finger in any direction. Eventually, you'll hit a freeway. Her laugh, a roar. I marvel at how Manchester Avenue creeps into Firestone Boulevard. I promise myself, when the freeways begin to crumble and the city drifts into the Pacific, I will stand watch. When the final palm tree goes up in flames, Wanda Coleman's roar will be the last thing I want to hear. Here's a poem about baseball. It's called Stoppage of Play. The threat of nuclear war has caused a delayed game at Dodger Stadium. Thousands of loyal fans remain in their seats, pecking at smartphones. On the jumbo screen, an announcement from the president. America first, he says. The crowd goes wild. Meanwhile, in Congress, bobbleheads nod in approval. Not even the silly hopes for a World Series will remain at Chavez Ravine. Nuclear shadows of palm trees will be the only evidence of where a city once stood. Let's see. I'm going to read this one. It's called Ode to Jonathan Gold. To honor Jonathan Gold, don't write him a poem or an essay. Don't talk about your favorite restaurant. To honor Jonathan Gold is to learn how to navigate from West Side freeways to humble shopping malls in the San Gabriel Valley. It's letting your tongue travel from Manila to Calcutta all in one day. It means you know the taco is life wrapped in a tortilla. To honor Jonathan Gold, you have to recognize the seas, borders that recipes cross to make it inside a restaurant. You have to think about tired hands in the San Joaquin Valley picking garlic. You have to remember the brown bodies in the kitchen. You have to leave a proper tip, not another Yelp review. To honor Jonathan Gold, visit a fancy taco spot in the Arts District. Sit across from a woman, look into beautiful eyes, and say, the sourness on the feta cheese of these sweet potato tacos overpowers it's the sweetness. To honor Jonathan Gold, there has to be a table where food is shared, not worshipped, or a picnic at Hollywood Forever Cemetery, or under the lights of a taco truck on a South Central street. So text your friends, invite them to dinner, and order everything on the menu. This next one is called Love Poem for the Four Seasons. And it's a extra piece after Wendy Red Star's Four Seasons, which is a series of photographs. Definitely look them up on Google. Wendy Red Star, Four Seasons. I love you as the earth dances around the sun, no matter where the North Pole faces. It doesn't matter that wolf and deer are watching on a penitent blanket laid down in the woods. I love you. I don't romanticize you. In your rainbow regalia, I see nothing fake about you. During autumn, you're a certain dark thing, not one with nature. In these hands, your scent will be respected. Your crow name is always smiling against winter snow or summer rain. Your brown skin shines. By the river, I sit next to you, contemplating spring, and with my brown eyes, I adore you. I love you as a response to history and colonization. From a reservation in Montana to rice terraces in Luzon, our lives overlap like the weaving on an Apache burden basket where my heart is now resting. I'm just going to read two more. This is called The Sound of an American Flag on Fire, Redux. It's the sound you hear when you turn off your TV. It's the sound that old men make at night as they sleep on the sidewalk outside empty loft buildings. It's the sound of air escaping your mouth after you get the notice that your rent is increasing. It's that same sound you heard when you tore that ticket for jaywalking. It's the sound of your head getting slammed on a police cruiser, and the sound you hear when the power company shuts off your electricity after a hard day of working. It's the flash on a camera phone when a Latina border agent takes a selfie. It's that ringing in your ear when someone tells you to go back to your country. It's the click from a key as toddlers are locked in cages. It's the exact same sound you hear in your head when you look around and realize it doesn't have to be this way. I'm going to read one more. This is a poem I'm still working on. I'm still workshopping it, but I wanted to read something new for y'all. This is called To Catch a Thief. And as an epigraph, it's a location. It's on a real store, Little Tokyo, Los Angeles, California. It takes an hour to get here. 2 buses, including one where I had to beg the driver for a courtesy ride. Outside, the summer sun breathes heavy. Inside the store, the smell of candy and erasers tickles my nose. The girl said she would let me hold her hand if I got her a new Hello Kitty lip gloss. Said this knowing I'm 13 and jobless, knowing her skin is velvet and my hand is lonely, knowing her eyes are honey brown and I'm a hungry bear. The price tag says $5, but my pockets say I only have enough money to get home. It took me an hour to get here. It takes me a second to decide. I reach for the lip gloss. I choose a life of crime. Thanks, everybody. Jenise, you ready? I'm about to do your intro. Okay, moving on. All the way from her home in Compton, California, which is where I am too. A different home. Jenise Miller is a Black Panamanian urban planner and writer from Compton. She is a Pushcart nominated poet and Voices of Our Nation's Arts alumna. She is the author of the poetry book, chapbook, The Boulevard, and has published work in KCET Artbound, Boom California, Cultural Weekly, The Acentos Review, and Dryland. Dryland, sounds interesting. Anyways, here's Jenise. Take it away.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nikolai. Nikolai does the best introductions. Like if Nikolai is introducing you and you're listening, you're like, oh, is that me? Great, best. If you ever get to do an event with Nikolai, make sure he's doing your introduction. So thank you everyone for being here today, this evening. I know it's been a long week. It's been a crazy year in which every week feels like a whole year in and of itself. So appreciate y'all for being here and Karo for putting this together and my fellow poets on today. So as Luis had mentioned earlier, we all have published chapbooks with DSTL Arts, and the chapbook that I had the opportunity to publish is called The Boulevard. This is a picture of it here. The cover was done by a local artist. Her name is Mel DeBaz, and she's really phenomenal. She's on Instagram. You should find her and follow her if you're not already. Some of her work is all over Compton, and she sells apparel, and so really fortunate to be able to work with her on the cover. And I don't mention this, and I want to make sure to start mentioning it. I recently did another reading, and one of the first things he made sure to say was who the book was dedicated to. And I was like, yeah. So my book is dedicated to my mother. Her name is Maria Dolores Bernard. According to her, the emphasis was on Dolores. She felt like her life was so painful, so many pains, and she's a little dramatic. So I wrote this book, and the book is like an ode to Compton, but it's really an ode to my mother. And because, Compton, my mother really honestly was the place where I was raised. And she was actually she was ill actually the whole last year that I was writing this chapbook. And she passed away in March. I feel like she's still with me, even though she's an ancestor. But this book is dedicated to her. And so I'm going to read like some mother poems today. So the first one I'm going to start with It's called My Mother Hid Her Accent. If I can find it. Okay. My mother hid her accent in her throat when she crossed the border, convinced her dark skin would not betray her the way her words did. My mother hid her accent in the silence behind a gold-toothed smile. When anyone accused, you sound like you're not from here. My mother hid her accent in the pressed straight curls of her R's, forced H's to appear where there once were none, pieced together a perfect English. My mother hid her accent in her mouth, said to her tongue, be small and quiet. I heard her in the womb and listened. My mother hid her accent at the hospital where she named me. When a nurse corrected what she thought a sure mistake, my mother spoke into the silence and said, no, this is how it is said. My mother hid her accent from every word except my name. I learned actually just how true it is or was that my mother's accent was in my name. My mother had shared with me when she was younger. She's Panamanian, and when she was younger, like her grandparents on her father's side, they spoke some kind of French because in Panama there's a lot of Caribbean influence. And so I recently learned or realized that the way my mother pronounced my name was French. She had long forgotten the language. She didn't speak French, and it was probably like more like a French Creole, but it was really interesting to learn that recently. To have. So really her accent is actually in my name. So I have a part of her really with me every time, all the time. Mamas who take the bones of language, render it thick and full like hips, make names that say thank you God for this mouth. And unique. Mamas who echo Delisha, Amisha, Naisha, Isha, Isha. In the void of a native tongue, she remembers sound. Oh, to the mamas who mean what they say, with names that say what she means. Mamas of Yalitza, Zuleika, who use X, Y, or Z, because she stay doing the most with the least. Oh, to the mamas who make simple letters, glorious like the ancients. X with T next to L, like so you, so she, so you can remember. This tongue is resistant, this breath is resilient. Oh, to the mamas who divine names, full and fluorescent with lightning and light. Luce, Minachelle, Danye, Dejeuner, Ashkashe. Names that caress the crags and curve of the mouth, roll through the neck, and come out with a shout. Oh, to the mamas whose skills we doubt when folks think these names too ethnic, too hard to pronounce. No, your name is a poem that claims you and says you belong to us. Oh, to the mamas who be the first and last poets, linguists, lyricists, warriors of words with bars for the ages. Like Aretha said, give her her propers and put some respect on her name. Let's see. Trying to look at the time here. Trying to make sure I'm within my time. So I'm gonna read. Actually, I think I'm a little over time. I'm gonna wrap up actually with this last poem, and it's called "The Other Tattoo." I first saw it after a nurse scanned my mother's skin under a blue light, searching for a vein to insert a new lifeline, where diabetes swelled her arms and hands as she laid unconscious in the hospital. I already knew my father's last name inked on one hand, though I never asked when, how, or where she got it. Did she hide it from her mother? Did her mother find out and disapprove? My mother, who told me not to wear makeup, questioned the length and fit of my skirt, even though old photos revealed a woman who wore cherry red lipstick on full lips and strutted long-legged in cut-off shorts. Now the doctors search for clues and a cause. Was it the cancer that returned or the ailments stacked against her? In this moment of stillness and searching, I notice another tattoo. I look close to read letters that perhaps were once black, now faded green, and I imagine someone other than the woman I've known all of my life, but only part of hers, and I want more time to know her, the woman she was before any expectations to be more than who she wanted to be. I want more time to know the woman with another tattoo, her own blessed name on her body. Thank you. I think I'm fading into the light. Thank you all. Thank you.
Yeah, those are really beautiful, Jenise. Thank you. I mean, if you want to share another one, I think we're okay on time. I think we could just kind of started a little bit late.
Okay.
It's up to you if you don't.
I could read one more.
Yeah.
Let's see which one. Okay, I'll read this poem called Etched from the chapbook. I had an Etch-a-Sketch that I used to design a blueprint of some kind, a scatter of vertical and horizontal lines. I turned the knob left and right to make an imperfect circle, then shake, erase, start all over again. I'm the child of a bingo player, which means daughter of a gambler. Here is where I place my bets. I risk my own happiness for the acceptance of others. I usually lose, then shake, erase, start all over again. I like today, after it is etched on the page, and I want to change words I've already written now that I have better ones. I'll risk the imperfect circle. Shake, erase, start all over again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jenise. That was really beautiful. I really appreciate poems about mothers. And then those I really felt those. Yeah. So our next poet that is gonna be coming up is José Richard Aviles. And then, I actually, I saw them perform for the first time at a Alivio open mic, back before the shutdown. And, their performance really, I don't know, just kind of blew me away. So, and then I was super excited that they're going to be getting their, book published with DSTL Arts, as well. So, and I'm looking forward to reading it. And and I'm very excited to see them read today. The bio. José Richard Aviles is a choreographer, social worker, and urban planner based out of Los Angeles. Aviles uses her background in dancing and planning to activate communities in response to gentrification and engages in urban systems like public transit. As an urban planner, Aviles is the project lead for Rapid Implementation and Survivor Engagement, RISE, a rapid response protocol that incorporates street design and trauma-informed planning with the Los Angeles Department of Transportation. As an artist, Aviles has toured Callejera, their first work that explores the relationship between space and identity, with performances at the University of Southern California, Tulane University, Nuyorican Poets Cafe, and Montreal, Canada. And I shared the stage with acclaimed bands Las Cafeteras and Monsieur Perrine. Currently, Aviles is an adjunct professor of experimental choreography at the University of Redlands, an artist in residence with Side Streets Project, and a poet in residence with DSTL Arts, where they're developing their second work, Semias, an exploration of generational trauma and the first in the artist's life. Okay, take it away, Jose Richard.
Thank you so much for having me, everyone. I am super honored and blessed to be doing this performance alongside these amazing poets. And again, this is called Semilla. It's my first published chapbook, and I'm super excited about it. So let's dive right in. Semilla follows the 4 different seasons, and we start off with summer, that season where we get to sweat in summer sweat and dance in summer sweat. This is called Semilla. Maxwell has particular nipples. They are covered in round areolas. Do you like your nipples stimulated, I ask? He answers yes, but the look in his eyes reflects the fact that straightness has forbade him of this pleasure. You deserve that and then some. I am turned on by power, my power, to feel the slight unescaped sounds of your moans, to hear the true timbre hidden underneath your tongue. I am turned on by power, my power, the power of prophecy. You might have been the first man I've made come, he says. I laugh as the water runs down my back, for this is not the first time I've heard that. I have become that little semillita, that little dark seed that is planted in the deep, dark thoughts of desires, that plane where gender is everything you have imagined and have yet to imagine, that plane where time folds into itself, and that plane where you body and those particular nipples are the center of the universe, the center of power. Have I mentioned that you have particular nipples? I've been yearning to feel their taste, and I will admit that I sucked my lip while writing this line. My never-ending curse is this, to be that little seed, the first, but never forgotten, for you never forget your first. I am grateful for the lover that will savor its fruit. This is called Roadmap. 1, make me smile and bring extra water. 2, I know what heat feels like, so make me feel something outside of life. Make the world crumble upon this body. 3, make a left turn on Chess Lane. Lose yourself in brown roundabouts with not enough exits. 4, 600 feet north, you'll find the plains of my neck, and there lies potential fruit. 5, plant your seeds and break soil with your teeth. Now, these last 2 poems and this upcoming poem are dedicated to the lovers that I've had to leave behind closets. The lovers that make you say that you are too much. The first time I wrote Semilla and I read it, I realized that being the first queer in a lot of men's lives, you also end up being the first affair in a lot of men's life. If you know this little next song, please sing along with me. Siempre, como ya es costumbre, día a día es igual. No hay nada que decir, ante la gente es así. Amigos, simplemente amigos sin nada más. Pero quién sabe en realidad lo que sucede entre los dos. Si cada vez llegando la noche finge un adiós, cuánto daría por gritarles nuestro amor. Decirles que a cerrar las puertas nos amamos sin control, que despertamos abrazados, ganas de seguir amándonos, pero es que en realidad no aceptan nuestro amor. You love hard. Now, when I first heard this, it really messed me up. When you grow up poor, you realize that love is the only currency you'll never run out of. I love this. I love this hard because I'm not sure I can offer anything else. I choose to love this hard because this is my resistance and my spirit knows nothing else but fight. I offered them the world and they only returned a kiss. Love is my liberator. I have learned to expand my wings beyond the strength of this spine. There is no coin to explain the transaction between spirit. When flesh only limits the length of my stride, love is the wealth that pumps magic out of these thighs. El amor es mi salvación. Love is my salvation. No hay oro suficiente que pueda aumentar, las monedas se deslizan como oro. Pero el amor es más fuerte. Love is stronger than the pressure that made this diamond. Mis besos, tu herencia, mi patrimonio, tu legado. We now move into fall. And fall is the place of transition, that moment of change. In Semilla, a lot of the best poems out of Semilla really came out during this time, during quarantine, and having to sit through and explain and deal with a lot of my own traumas. We talk about planting seeds and laying roots, but we forget to talk about the pain of covering terrain, the push the seed makes, the relinquishing of its breaking shells as roots seek to find water. That is the pain of the eldest sibling. We share tears no one will wipe. We scrape our knees so those after us can run freely. We jump twice as high without guidance. We construct roads and maps at once. Lloramos a solas, pasamos hambres y a veces fríos porque hemos aprendido a ser cobijas y no encobijados. We cry alone. We go through famish and sometimes we bear the cold. I've cried myself to bed too often. And I feel lost every night, and I try to fulfill my dreams while ensuring that I don't cast shadows upon them. But that is okay, for tomorrow is a new harvest, and I was yesterday's fruit. This next poem is about exploring my own reconciling with my own toxic masculinity and not imposed upon me. This is called Mala Hierba. He is not my son. I was emasculated from birth, a product of a toxic relationship, nací no deseado. For my father had left my mother and my stepfather, well, he constantly exclaimed, he is not my son. I was allowed to roam the streets free. Así como te fuiste, te vienes. I never knew when I was in trouble. I only knew I wasn't his. A mí no me regañaban. That was my mother's job. I'm still trying to tell the difference between toxic masculinity and neglect. He is not my son. Now I'm just José Richard. He now knows that I am the son that shows up a mi manera, but I show up. He cried his heart when I left, and he always still said, he is not my son. Well, he is not my father. Mala hierba nunca muere, pero el corazón sí endurece. This is called your body. When is the last time you paused and talked to your body? No, not to you. Your body, to flesh, to blood, to joint and sweat, to water, fluid, sweaty tears. When was the last time you talked to your body? Stopped and heard the gallop of your racing heart and you had to say, it's okay, girl. We're all right. We're alive. You breathe with her, a deep, never-ending sigh, and cooed by your voice, she slows down. When did you last talk to your pelvis and those damn knees? Tonight we're going to talk. And dance is the only way I know how. Al sonar la clave, todo se enciende. Have you been grateful to your feet? They put up with the rest of you. When was the last time you washed your feet? And what about your face, your smiles, your lips, to the curl of your lashes, to the curtain of your brow? When is the last time you paused and talked to your body? No, not to you, your body. These last two poems are really about the mortality that I've been sitting with, in sitting with the fact and preparing for my own funeral, which will happen many years from now as I tell the universe and my orishas, like, not yet. But a lot of my mortality has come to question, and these last two poems explore that. Cuando yo me muera, cántenme las mañanitas y llorarán hasta que sus ojos no dejen de doler. You will cry until your eyes become deserts, but it's okay. Birds like me cannot be caged. Our love is too strong to be caged. Me pidieron que no me vaya, and I will remind you that I live within you. I live in the way your heart warms when you think of me. I live in the wind that embraces you the way my hugs once did. I live in the chirp of the bird singing the song of my laughter. Look for those birds. I live in the eyes of children. Qué linda será la mañana cuando vengan a despedirme. Así tenía que ser. Cuando yo me muera, don't cry. I am only going home. This last piece is called Before the World Ends. Con 3 cigarros me despedí. Midnight. I welcomed the night, the birth of something new. I stopped to listen to my heart as she burned inside, saline that burns my wounds, asking my heart to hear. I allow the calluses to heal, to finally feel. 1 a.m. Quiero que te detengas. I want them to melt the way I did in your smiles. Your eyes see the vulnerability that I am too afraid to share. You are my morning coffee, and I, unfortunately, have become the cigarette that accompanies it. Siempre soñé presentarte a mi madre, decirle que te quiero a ti, que el mañana ya no es prometido, but I am grateful for the spirits that brought you into my life. 2 a.m. My whole life I wanted to be seen, and now that their eyes are upon me, I don't know how to manage their lust. Soy la noche calmada y misteriosa, soy la nube que se mueve sin ruido, llena de lágrimas que algunos oirán y que otros tenderán. 3 a.m. Al resonar de la última campana me conocerán. I want you to know that I lived. I worked too hard to finally meet me. Never let them tell you different. Whether you become a flower or a weed, I will always cultivate the soil for you to grow, to love, to cry, to jump, to fly, to live. Remember that I always loved you, that I held your hand underneath the tree. I ended every text with the love you. Before the world ends, you will know that I loved you. Or when I'm gone, this book will be the testament of my love for you. Mi gordito, el hijo que nunca tuve y que siempre soñé. Thank you so much for having me. My name is José Richard Aviles, and I'm super excited for this upcoming chapbook to come out titled Semilla. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Jose, and everybody, Jenise and Nikolai. It's been really great to hear all of your words, and so I actually I wanted to open this up for any questions that anyone might have to any of the poets. And we've all 4 of us have published chapbooks, or will be publishing chapbooks. And so if anyone has questions about the process, or just really anything, this is the time. You can type it in the chat room, or you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Yeah. And if no one has any questions, I'm gonna ask some. Then what I'm gonna start off with Nikolai and see if you did you want to talk a little bit about Dryland and your work as an editor there?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I've been on I've been with Dryland for a couple years now. Uh, we're about to release our 10th issue. It's been done for a little while. It's been at the printers, but we're just waiting on for it to be delivered. It's kind of like a little delay in the shipping. So we're not exactly sure when we're going to get it, but it'll be. We thought for sure we'd have it at the end of this month, but now it's looking like early September. But it's awesome. It's going to be twice the size as last issue. It's a lot of really good stuff in there. Jenise Miller there has um, an essay in there, really cool essay. Um, some really awesome poets. Tango S.A. Martin is in it. Barbara Jane Reyes, Alan Cesaro. A lot of new and upcoming emergent voices like that you guys haven't heard of. It's going to be awesome, and as soon as we get it, we're going to announce a pop up at Patia Coffee. We're bummed out that we're not going to be able to do a release party, because of the pandemic and social distancing and all. But we're going to do at least a pop up and probably some virtual readings. So look out for that. Yeah, I wanted to go ahead and ask the writers here what kind of differences they're noticing in their writing during this pandemic. Jose Richard, you mentioned a little bit about that during your reading, but wanted to hear more about that and from Battle and Jenise. So, what's the same and what's different?
I mean, for me, I think it's just like it's given me like a little bit more time to be like self-reflective, and I feel like that's something that a lot of people have been sort of like, because now we're, a lot of us are sort of not self isolating, social distancing. So I feel like it's given me definitely more time to go internally and do some like internal work that needed to be done. Like I don't, like there's, I feel like before there was like a lot more pressure to be, go out and like be at events, but now it's like, there's nothing really like going on out there. So it's like I've just been sort of hanging out at home, and I think it's given me the opportunity to do some more writing. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. What about Jenise? Did you how has the pandemic affected your writing?
Well, I guess I'm not even sure. I mean, I do feel like I haven't been able to write poetry as much. Like when I sit down and write a poem, it's not coming together as it did when I was like working on a chapbook. Like when I was working on a chapbook, like seemed like the poems were kind of just coming, or they were like already there in a way, and I guess I had arrived, and they were already there. So I just had to put them together. But now it's like I've been writing more essays, um, and articles. I've been able to do some research and write some articles. Um, and I feel like maybe because I've been doing more of that, when I sit down to write a poem, it feels like I'm writing an essay. It like ends up being like an essay or an article. So I guess it's kind of changed how I write and what form like I'm writing in. Um, so let's say that. Mhm. Um,
Did you want to add anything, Jose Richard?
Yeah, I think for me during this time, well, first I am trained as a choreographer, so to be honest, being a poet has something that has been fairly new for me. But I will say that during this process, I learned that words also can dance, and they dance a little differently on page. So that's been something I discovered during this time. But I will say that part of the reason I included singing at least a little bit now has been because I've spent so much time in my mind, and I have to remind myself that I live in space in relationship to objects and to people. And there's something very therapeutic and healing about hearing my voice bounce back and back to me. And it reminds me that I am body, that I am a person, I'm organism. So I will say that I think what's changed for me in my writing has been to finally really listen to the voice in my head, when so many times, like, you know, we've been told, or at least I've been told, as someone born and raised in South Central, being queer, being brown, being thicker body, that my voice in my body was not valid. And so I think I internalized a lot of that, but now I've learned to listen to this voice. And it's not my fault that I speak in poetics and not in rhetoric.
Yeah, I know. I feel you on that, like, internally. Yeah, I feel like I've been doing some of that as well as that, like, yeah. As I said before, that's, yeah, that, you know, like going, you know, reframing all of these other things that, you know, that I've heard about, like my body, or um, being as somebody who's perceived as a woman. And, you know, yeah, just like reframing all of that and being able to be like, oh, I need to like set better boundaries for myself, and like, you know, honor myself more. And I feel like, yeah, it's like, I feel like this pandemic is like kind of like help me do that a little bit, because yeah, I've been existing in this, like, yeah, just in my house a lot and with myself. So what about you, Nikolai? How do you feel about, or how do you feel like your poetry has changed?
Um, I mean, I'm actually getting to write some, you know. I mean, to me, I mean, I wish I was at home and whatnot, but I mean, I've been having to go to work every day, you know, so that's still there. So I don't have any extra time or anything. The only thing that's extra, I guess, is we're not doing any more readings or events and stuff. So that I'm taking advantage of. I mean, the first thing that I did is I just started reading a lot. I just started reading a lot, a whole pile of books that I've had been amassing, collecting, you know, for months. I'm finally getting through to those. I mean, and I'm still buying books pretty much every week. But I think, I mean, reading to me is much more important than writing. So I've been doing a lot of reading, and then just recently, when we started meeting together, you know, me, you, and Jenise and Jorge, we've been meeting online, and that's been encouraging me to start writing again. And then last week, I started meeting with Viva like every day, and we're kind of just holding ourselves accountable to certain goals. Like last week, I was just focusing on submitting. This coming week, I'm going to be focusing on editing, and then I'll start writing some new poems. I'm going to start going to the Conchas online classes so I can start writing some more. You know, because I mean that's all I really need to do right now. I already have like an idea for my next chapbook. I just got to sit down and write some more poems for it. You know, so yeah.
Cool. Jenise, you had a follow-up question for Jose?
Yes, I did. So it's interesting because you mentioned words can dance. And so I have found myself a little like writing can be such a sit down and do kind of process. Just sit down, or even reading, you're just sitting down, and it can involve so much sitting. And I feel like sometimes it can, it can make the writing a bit stagnant. Like you kind of have to get moving. So my question for you is, are there any exercises that you do, like literal exercises, movement, that you have found helpful with your writing, or helpful in getting that creativity from your mind to the page? Or, I mean, they even say that, like, I think with therapy, sometimes what you need to do to get out of your head is to get active. Like the opposite, like you want to just sit still, but in order to shift your energy, you actually have to walk or go outside. Or so I'm curious if you have anything that you could recommend or even show. I don't know. It'll be helpful for me because sometimes I'm just like, type. I need something different.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think that for me, this process of writing this chapbook was very, very challenging because at first we had set the goal of like 40 poems, and then I was like, I'm gonna do 50. And then I was like, oh my God, I gotta sit down and write this. Oh no. And so it was definitely a challenge for me being able to sit down when in fact I am a mover. So for me, on my Instagram, every Monday I do something called Monday de Movimiento. And it's been a practice of reminding myself what my joy is. And when there's so many things that have been changing and growing in my life that I see, no matter how tall this tree grows, this tree will never forget the soil in which it's planted in. So for me, it's always going back to my first love, which is dance. I learned how to dance before I learned how to walk. And so it just moves my body and it reminds me that it's not stiff. But in particularly, I think exercises, for me has been understanding where joy comes from. I think specifically Mala Hierba, which I read, and it's about the relationship I have with my stepfather and my biological father. But to me, my stepfather is my dad. And so one of the things that I had to say was like, look, I'm okay. I have joy. I'm going to say some stuff in this poem, but I had to go back to that feeling, but I'm not there anymore. So it was quite interesting to write that poem and to like have them read it, especially the last line, Mala Hierba nunca muere, pero el corazón se endurece. Like my heart is not hard. I promise. It's very soft like honey. So I think about going back to joy, and particularly I really enjoy just vocalizing anything and doing warm-ups or whatever in downward dog. And the only reason I do that is because in downward dog is actually one of the positions where your spine is completely in alignment. So you're able to really find your breath from the top of your head to your pelvic floor. So another thing that I offer to folks is we have one diaphragm, and the diaphragm is an organ in our body that expands and collapses to let air come in. But we have 5 places in our body that function like a diaphragm. And these are just reminders that your breath is actually very, very deep. The first part is here, and it's called your cerebrum tentorium. It's the space between your cranium and your brain. The next space is in your clavicle, in your chest. The third space, right, is in your diaphragm. The fourth space is in your belly, and the last space is in your pelvic floor. So I think for me, connecting to those breathing exercises and tapping deep into that, a lot of the things that I wanted to process and get through came out from those breathing exercises.
Yeah,
Thank
breathing.
you. Thank you. I'm sorry. I was just saying thank you, and I'm gonna check out Monday Movimiento. Yes, and
yes. And this Monday, actually, I'm going to be offering a free Zumba class on Zoom. No, not Zumba, a cumbia class on Zoom. So it kind of is Zumba. But so to celebrate that I've been doing Monday de Movimiento for a year now, I was like, well, I'm going to do some cumbia. So it's tomorrow at 6 p.m. on Zoom. And you can find all those details on Instagram.
Okay. And I wanted to say too, like, it's so that I love that poem that you read about the Mala Hierba. And I know because your chapbook is coming out, and I just, from the poems that you read, like the theme to me is love. And the line that I wrote it down somewhat, love is the currency that, I typed it in the chat. Oh, love is the only currency you never run out of. And I feel like that thread is at least in the poems that you read, is in all of, those poems. So I thank you. Look forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, does anyone have any burning last questions for any of us? Otherwise, I think we're gonna wrap up. And I just, I wanted to thank DSTL Arts again for hosting us, and some poets and writers also. And then I think Louise has been dropping like the links in the chat. So if you want to purchase any of our books, those are all going to be available at dstilarts.org. And then I don't, Samia, is it already on pre-order or not yet?
Samia will be available pre-order this upcoming week, so definitely
Okay.
make sure that y'all follow DSTL Arts to get that update. So thanks.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, everybody. This has been really great. It's been great to that you all joined us. And yeah, I hope you all have a great rest of your Sunday. And then I don't know, Nikolai, did you want to say anything before we head out?
No, just thanks for joining us. Buy people's books if you like our stuff, and you guys are free to go watch Lovecraft Country now. That's what I'm gonna do.
I just wanted to say one more time, thank you to everybody that joined us. Thank you to Karo, Nikolai, Jenise, and Richard for putting this together collaboratively. Specifically, I want to thank Karo for reaching out to poets and writers, and definitely want to thank them for supporting this program. And I want to say also that if anybody has any questions for our poets that you did not get to ask them today, please feel free to drop a line. You can always hit us up either on any of the social media links that you've seen, or you can always email me at luis@dstlarts.org. Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a great afternoon.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Bye.